is Monday, which means it's time to round up today's top stories in the world of science with CTV science and tech expert Dan Riskin. Dan, great to see you again. Let's get into this. It's always interesting. How much of a difference do bats really make on insect populations?
Well, I'm so glad you're asking me about bats because it's literally my favorite thing to talk about. So this is a really nice study where they went into a forest in Indiana, and for some of the trees, they covered them with nets at night so bats couldn't get there to eat the insects that would otherwise eat the leaves. And other parts of the forest, they left so the bats could go and save the trees from those evil insects. And they just wanted to see how big an impact bats were having. During the day, it was open, so birds were still having the same effect everywhere. It was just the bats that were isolated. And what they found was, for big old trees, if you allow bats to do their job, it reduces how many leaves get eaten by caterpillars and things by about 3 times. And if you do it for seedlings, it's 5 times the difference. So bats make a huge difference to the health of forests. It's not just that they eat mosquitoes to protect us, they're protecting the trees too. We really need them. Yeah, fascinating stuff. That's really intriguing. And obviously, as the resident bat expert amongst the three of us, Dan, that is something you're big into, of course. No, from bats to birds, though, this is a sort of Robo-Falcon that chases birds away from airports. This is big to lower bird strikes, of course. Yeah, exactly. So around the world, every year, about 1.8 billion Canadian gets spent on fixing planes after bird strikes. It's a huge problem because birds show up around airports, planes trying to take off, and all of a sudden you've got all these birds that are in the way, and also during landing. And for places like Pearson, that's a many million-dollar problem. And so people have tried flying drones, they've tried making noises. This newest technology is a robotic falcon. Basically, it's like a little remote control airplane that's shaped like a falcon. And when they fly that around airports, it scares the birds away, and it works really, really effectively. So it's basically got these propellers that are on the wings that pull it along. And as it flies, the birds really think it's a falcon, and they fly away and they don't come back. And it's not putting the airplanes in danger, and it does get the birds to leave. So it's really pretty remarkable stuff. Yeah, it is. Awesome. It looks so realistic there. I don't know. I just think that maybe the birds are jealous of the airplanes and they're trying to send a message by getting so close to them. Okay, that's ridiculous. Sorry, Dan. Thanks for entertaining me. This next one is interesting because I love to dance. Can't hit the clubs anymore, but bass so low you can't hear it actually makes you dance more, contrary to popular belief. This is the coolest thing in the world. So an experiment out of McMaster University, they've got this research facility. They set it up like a dance, just like you're seeing there. I mean, basically they had 100 undergrads come in and dance. And unbeknownst to the undergrads, they were flicking a switch in the back room that switched this very low bass. So these low bass noises that you can't hear, but you can feel in your bones, they were switching that on and off every 2.5 minutes during this hour-long dance set. And they measured how much people danced by headbands they were wearing that measured movement. And they found that 90% of people respond to it. When there's the bass in your bones, you feel it, you dance more, and you can't hear a difference. If somebody plays you the 2 sounds, you don't hear a difference. But when you feel it, you dance more. And so anybody who wants to have a hopping party, and you won't get yelled at by the neighbors because they can't hear it. That's the best part. It's these very low bass noises that make a huge difference to how much we dance. And so the big question is why? And how does that work? And how does that fit with music and how we understand all that stuff? So it's a really neat finding, and it's right up the road at McMaster University. Wow. I went to McMaster. That's a study I would have easily taken part in, 25 or whatever years ago it was. It's been a while, though. Anyway, Dan, appreciate this. Thanks so much. Cool. We'll talk to you next week. Have a good one. Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you.
Chelsea Vaughn is a fashion triple threat, working as a professional runway, beauty, and commercial model. The pandemic slowdown led her to become a frequent viewer of the Bachelor franchise on ABC. That's when Matt James was announced as the first Black Bachelor in the show's history. Chelsea decided to throw her hat in the ring, and voila, she was cast as a contestant on the season. Look, no love connection, but Chelsea turned her experience and profile into positivity and progress for women of color. And here to share that history and her story is Chelsea Vaughn. Good morning, Chelsea.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Where are you today, by the way?
I'm actually in Brooklyn, in New York.
Brooklyn strong.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's get right into it. Vulnerable is your new podcast. Look, there's a cosmos of competition out there for hearts and minds and ears when it comes to podcasts. What distinguishes yours?
I think that I do have a unique POV. Like from the show that I was on, I did gain quite a following from the show. And I think what people follow me for, or what they felt like they connected with, was just my transparency and my ability to be like authentic and genuine. I know there's a lot of people in the space that, like influencer space or even on TV, that people don't really feel like are real with them. And so that's really what I want my podcast to be, like be a very a space where I can be very vulnerable, hence the name, but also like very real with people and kind of just transparent about all of the areas of the fashion industry that I've been in.
Yeah, you know, truth goes a long way in this post-truth world that we live in right now, right? So when it comes to the podcast, you've got a number of them in the can. First one will be out there today. So you bring in guests, you give advice. What's the feedback been like so far?
It's been really positive. I was actually really nervous because I haven't really done a whole lot in the entertainment industry where I'm actually like speaking and having a voice. That sounds weird, but like modeling, you don't really get to talk or share your opinion, or even when you're in the corporate fashion world. So it's just like, I was scared to like actually let people see my feelings. But the feedback has been so positive so far. And everyone was like really excited to hear that from me. You
know, on podcasts, what we hear in TV call crosstalk, that can be a problem sometimes, right? And it can often, I think, for audiences be tough to kind of cut through the noise and find a clear signal. Are you conscious about, you know, discipline of dialogue on the podcast? You know, once the mics are hot, to have sort of an equal footing?
Yeah, I actually struggled with that in the beginning just because I've been so used to being the guest on podcasts. So I really had to like fall into that. Okay, now you're the host role. Somebody here has to be in charge of where this interview is going, and that's you. So on the first episode that's coming out today, I interviewed a friend, Abigail Herringer, and it was just good to have a friend there because I was like, okay, heads up, I don't know what I'm doing. I felt very comfortable with her. And I really had to like lean into the host role. And then as I have gone on to each episode after, it's just gotten better.
That's how you do. You dive right in. The pandemic really exposed and laid bare a lot of uncomfortable and even ugly truths about social media and pop culture and the role in society. What did you learn about yourself, Chelsea, during isolation?
Luckily, I wasn't completely alone. I had one of my best friends and roommates here with me. But I think I learned that, well, I don't know. I learned a couple of different things, but I really have been like leaning more into mental health and realizing how much of an effect that social media has on our mental health in like my generation and Gen Z even more than me because I'm a millennial. But like, it's just, I don't think any of us realize or think about the impact that it has, like consuming so much media and so much content. And we don't know what's even real or what's fake or whatever. And that's why I think it's so important to be at least one of the people on the internet that's being transparent about things, because it's really like infiltrating all of our minds at a rapid pace. That sounds dark.
No. Look,
but it's true.
Look, at people that watch the franchise know that, you know, you're someone who cut through the BS and when it came to relationships and, you know, digital dating and all of that. So this is, I guess, the next step for you. Vulnerable is the new podcast. Chelsea Vaughn, thank you so much for giving us some of your time, and have a great day and good luck with the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Okay.
Well, Three Pines is a series that follows an investigator that has a gift or a curse where he has the ability to see things others might miss.
This tiny, sleepy village, full of kind, compassionate people, and 2 murders in 1 year. Evil reached into the ground in Three Pines.
Chief Inspector Gamache.
They're somewhere. Will you help us find her?
So joining us live now on CP24 Breakfast is some of the cast of this brand new series: Alfred Molina, Rossif Sutherland, and El Maya Tailfeathers. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's start with you, Alfred. First of all, I loved you in Chocolat and as Otto Octavius in Spider-Man, but you play neither in this series. You are Chief Inspector Armand Gamache, and you're said to be empathetic. You can see things. What makes this detective series different than all the other ones out there, you think?
Well, very often, you know, you get detectives who have some kind of terrible flaw. They're tortured, they're haunted by something, they bring all that to the work. The truth is, Armand Gamache is much more cerebral. He's an empathetic detective. He's more interested in why than the who. And I think that's very much the spirit of the books that the series is based on. Louise Penny's wonderful series of books are you know, based around this wonderful character. And there's the spirit of the books is all about empathy and, in a sense, sympathy for villains and understanding that all of us are capable of terrible things. And there's a wonderful line in one of the episodes where a character talks about, is there no limit to evil? And Gamache says something like, well, evil does have limits, but we have to find it.
Exactly, and that evil exists underneath this idyllic Quebec or village, which the series was filmed in Montreal and some parts of rural Quebec. Let's bring you in, Almaya Tailfeathers. You play an Indigenous working mother, and I understand that you're from the Kainai First Nation. And a lot of the series also explores the failings of the Quebec police when it comes to missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. So can you talk about what that was like, having to portray this sergeant who's a mother uncovering these issues?
Yeah, I think Isabelle Lacoste is an incredibly strong character. She reminds me of so many Indigenous women I know who are, raising children and raising the next generation. And Three Pines has done such a wonderful job of exploring and examining these very dark aspects of Indigenous lived experience, but also bringing to life the vibrance and hope and beauty of our communities. So to me, Isabelle Lacoste represents a sense of hope, and also represents justice and restitution in its truest forms.
And Rossif, let's bring you in. You're the other one of the other Canadian actors on this show. Your father, of course, Donald Sutherland. You've been acting since, you were very young, and you've starred in plenty of movies, but this is like a series that's quite different for you. Can you talk about who your character is? Why are you so combative and troubled? And how do you fit in with your other castmates?
This series is very close to home for me. I get to shoot in the Eastern Townships, which has been my El Dorado ever since I was a little kid. So it's been a dream to be on this job. But yes, I guess you describe my character as combative. I am wound quite tight. Thank you very much for laughing. But the thing is that this guy here to my right, he's very much a father figure to me. He's somebody who's rescued me from a life that had its own challenges, and I've found a job that I'm very good at. But unlike my boss, who is fascinated by people, and he will figure out who the killer is by figuring out what the motive is, my character is more like he's a logic seeker, a mathematician of sorts. He will break things down, and once the killer has been found, maybe he'll be sitting at a bar with a buddy and figuring out why the heck he did it.
Interesting.
But my boss does it the other way around.
Kind of the troubled Rain Man genius of the trio. Well, I can't see how the dynamic plays out
that's your interpretation.
on the show.
I wouldn't say that he's troubled. Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
We all have our problems. I mean, come on. Yeah, anyway.
Well, Alfred Molina, Rossif Sutherland, and Almaya Tailfeathers can't wait to see Three Pines. It releases on Amazon Prime December the 2nd, and 2 episodes will drop weekly. 8-episode series, 1 hour long each. Thank you so much for joining us to chat about this. Take care.
It was a lovely, uneventful Saturday morning. 3 lattes, 2 newspapers, and 1 dating service application.
Dear Single. Single? You don't even have a name?
Well, I'm single. I don't deserve one.
Iconic author and creator of what we're just watching there, Sex and the City, making her way to the Danforth Music Hall next month with her recent off-Broadway one-woman show, Is There Still Sex in the City? Big question.
So joining us live in the studio this morning is the woman herself, Candace Bushnell, the real-life Carrie Bradshaw. Good morning to you. Thank you for being with us. This is so exciting, a one-woman show. You're going to be starring in it.
Yes, I wrote it and I star in it, and it's a huge amount of fun, and it's really how I created Sex in the City, why I invented Carrie Bradshaw, what happened to me afterward, and then along the way I answer some of your most burning questions, like was there a real Mr. Big? Do I really have 3 friends like Samantha, Charlotte, and a Miranda? And do I have a shoe obsession like Carrie Bradshaw?
Fantastic shoes this morning, by the way, Candace.
Yes, I mean, they're a little bit conservative for me, but they are Manolos.
That's what I asked.
But they're very walkable.
Not on these sidewalks out here today
No,
with all
not
this sort of
today.
snow that's happening.
You know, I've actually been walking.
Yeah, you
around.
have been,
Yes, you know, we New Yorkers, we will just walk through
It's a
anything.
walking city, that's for sure.
So-
Yeah. So let me ask you, you know, how do you whittle down this? Because you must have so much material. We know your source material. Now you've got your life material. How do you whittle that down into a one-woman show? Because I would think, you know, oh, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about that, but you got to focus yourself.
Well, that's a really good question, because when I first started writing it, I think it was about 3 hours. And it was so long, and I was like, I said to the producers, a little help here.
Some editing.
I mean, I don't know if anybody can speak for 3 hours straight.
Yeah.
And then it actually got down to 2 hours because I did it out of town, developed it at the Bucks County Playhouse, and then we brought it down to 90 minutes. So now it's probably about 85 minutes with no intermission. But there's audience participation, there's a game, and real or not real, because there's so much that happened in the TV show that's either better or worse than my real life, including when Mr. Big dumps Carrie and he marries somebody else. He marries Natasha. That really happened.
Wow.
But as I say, on TV, it's so much more glamorous
For sure.
than my real life. So it's really just a great, fun night. It's kind of a girls' night out. Men can come too.
Okay, we're welcome. Good.
But and they really get a lot of laughs, I think.
Absolutely.
But,
And, you know, Candace, speaking of men, what I think strikes me about Sex in the City is that, yes, it might have been geared towards women in the beginning. Women everywhere love it, but so do all groups of people, including straight men.
I love
Who's
watching
a fan
it,
of the
yeah,
show.
yeah.
So what attests to why they like and relate to your show so much?
So many men watch it because they really want to find out what women think. So I love men who watch it. But the interesting thing is there were so many men who read the column. And I do think part of the reason for that was because I feel like I depict men the way they really are, because I've interviewed so many men about what they really think. And the truth is, if women knew what they really thought,
we'd run the other way.
Be so good. But you know, men love it because they think it's actually truthful about them.
Well, that's right. I mean, an honest sort of replication, which you can watch on screen and go, yeah, that kind of is a thought that's probably in my head at, you know, various times, various circumstances, right? That really does, that resonates, and so it makes it more genuine to watch here. But I wanted to circle back to the show really quickly, because the audience participation part must be really, like, so exciting for them to get to ask you questions like we are now. Is there sort of a general theme? Is there like the biggest, most regular question you're getting from the people that are showing up?
Well, those are actually the questions that I do answer during the course of the show. And they are questions like, was there a real Mr. Big?
Right. Yeah.
So that's a whole section of the show. What happened with the real Mr. Big, how he really dumped me, how I really met him. And, you know, it's so interesting when I was writing the show, going back to the book and my real life, how much of my real life is actually in the TV show. That actually kind of surprised me. And also, when I went back and looked at it, I realized I probably could have married my Mr. Big.
Right.
If I'd played my cards right. But I really did not want to get married and settle down at that time. Now, of course, I'm available.
There we go.
I'm on dating apps. I tried to go on a date, you know, with the guy in Toronto.
Oh, wow.
Yes, but the guy was in Australia.
Oh, well, that makes it a bit of a challenge.
So
maybe the location
life.
wasn't set to the right key or something.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe,
and that perhaps answered the question, is there still Sex in the City? No, because everyone's on Tinder or Hinge or Bumble.
Well, actually, yes, there is still Sex in the City, but the answer is yes, but less. But that's really even true for young people.
That's what I hear.
I mean, it's really the young people who are having less sex.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Because they have other things to do, like binging TV shows.
your TV
Like
show,
Sex and the City.
and perhaps your one-woman show
And
will get
coming
them
to
out.
my one-woman show.
December 11th at the Danforth Music Hall.
Yes,
Yeah.
and tickets are available at Live Nation.
All right, well, Candace, it's been a real pleasure to meet you. Thanks so
Yeah.
much for joining us and just sort of giving
Thank
us a bit of
you.
behind the scenes of what's happening in the one-woman show. Good luck with it all.
Great, thank you.
Enjoy Toronto. Yeah.
CP24 is celebrating the magic of Christmas with the original Santa Claus parade this Sunday, November 20th. It happens at 12:30 p.m. And joining us live here on the couch with more on the big show is Santa himself. Good morning, Santa.
Good morning to you, Chanel. What a wonderful joy it is for me to be here today.
How are you doing?
I'm just doing great. I'm pumped for Christmas, and I'm pumped for the parade on Sunday.
Okay, there's so much that I need to ask you about, but let me start with the most important question. Did I make the good list this year?
You're there. We've all have room for improvement, but you're there.
Okay, good to know. Phew. Let's talk about the parade,
All
because
right.
this is going to be the first big, full-scale Santa Claus parade since the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes.
So tell us a bit about what it means to be back out there this year.
I can't tell you. I'm so thrilled because I'm not the kind of Santa who likes to work from home. So this is going to be a great joy. Coming to Toronto has always been a joy for me because I feel like it's my second home. So I'm looking forward to all the children and their families on the street going down University Avenue along Bloor Street.
And listen, the floats are really the most exciting
yes.
part of this parade. Which ones are you most excited to see this year?
Well, in particular mine. Mrs. Claus's is a wonderful float, and there are some really wonderful. The first float, the Indigenous float, is going to be a real lovely float. Some people have seen it, but that's the important one to look for.
Okay. Well, Santa, we've been asking our friends from across the city to send us questions this morning.
Great.
We've got so many for you sent to us
Wonderful.
from kids who've been watching. So let's start with this one. This one was sent to us from Haley. Haley says, how does Santa stay hidden in the sky when people are still out driving around at night? And what happens when it's foggy?
Well, first of all, what do we do to stay hidden? We are moving so fast you can't see us. It's the speed of light. So that's how, because we have to get around the world.
Of course.
And in the fog, we have GPS, and the reindeer know exactly where to go, especially Rudolph. So we've done this before for hundreds of years.
And what happens when it's foggy?
Well, when it's foggy, we have GPS, and we have a little apparatus that gets us through the fog. And it's
Okay.
magic.
No problems there. Okay, Andrew also sent us a question for you, Santa. He says, what's your favorite cookie?
Oh, hands down, Oreos. Chocolate cookies.
Oreos. What about gingerbread?
Well, you asked my favorite. It's Oreos and chocolate milk.
Very controversial. All right. Our next question comes to us from Bo, Parker, and Grace. They're from Keswick. They're asking if you want milk and cookies beside the tree again this year, or do you want something else? And can we leave a carrot for the reindeer too?
You can always leave a carrot. Leave 2 carrots for the reindeer because there's a lot of them. So yes, and if you could put everything by the tree just like you did before, that would be just great.
Efficiency, all about
Absolutely.
efficiency.
We want to know where to go first when we hit your house.
Perfect. Lily from Milton wrote into us asking, can the elves eat chips like hickory sticks?
Well,
important question.
They can, but we ask them to stay away from that food during the Christmas time because they
Okay.
can get pretty fat, eh? So we don't want them to overeat.
Yeah, we want to be healthy. They've got
As
a
much
lot
as
of
we
moving around
can.
to do.
Absolutely. Carrot sticks for them is a good idea.
Okay, that makes sense. But for you, you're fine just to sit on the sleigh with your cookies?
I am. I am.
All right, the next question that we have is actually a video message. This one comes from Jackson, so let's listen.
Good morning, Santa. What do you want for Christmas?
Oh, thank you. What a
Good
lovely.
morning, Santa. What do you want for Christmas?
What a lovely question. Here's what I want for Christmas. It's all very, very simple. I would like people, especially now, to be kind with one another and to be, fair and respectful. That's what I want.
That's such a sweet message. And I love that Jackson asked that question.
Yes.
That is so kind to ask
It
how
is.
you're doing.
Yes.
And I just want to ask as well, because COVID's been so hard on everybody,
Yes.
Santa. Tell me a bit about how you're feeling going into this first Christmas where we're not in a lockdown, not seeing, the COVID restrictions that we've seen before, and now you can spend the Santa Claus parade with thousands of people here in Toronto.
I am so happy. And I'm also asking people to be safe at the same time. So we still need to be safe, but I'm feeling just elated to be back on the street of Toronto.
Hey, listen, how do you prepare for the parade? Because there's going to be a lot of people asking lots of questions. You're going to bring candy canes like those
Yeah.
for everybody. How do you prepare for the big day?
Sleep. I get a lot of sleep. If I can get as much sleep as possible, I can go for a long time. So that's
Okay.
how I prepare.
And how's the toy making going?
Oh, it's going
We're coming
fine.
close
We're
to the
well
day.
ahead of the game. We're well ahead of the game. game. Don't worry, we're on track. Everyone will be getting what they wish for at that.
You know what you're doing. You've done this before.
Yes, hundreds of years.
Santa, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on
you.
CP24 Breakfast. We so appreciate this. We'll see you at the parade on Sunday.
See you then.
Okay.